Hello people, what is going on? Welcome back to the channel. This is Sorin and we just made a video about the AMX 13105 line. So it's the best time of the year to make about the STB-1 as well. So what is the STB-1? Well, it's a Japanese medium tank line with really decent DPM, with really decent 14 degrees of gun depression, with a turret that can deflect some shells, and the entire tech tree is based on tanks with at least 10 degrees of gun depression. So starting off with the Chinu at the tier 5. What can I say about this vehicle? Well, I never played it and I consider a lot of guns to research. Even though it's a tier 5, we're gonna do like maybe around 10 battles to unlock the last gun, if at worst. So the grind is not that bad. Yet this time the OI is actually coming from this tank. So how did I unlock the OI and the Cheeto without playing the vehicle? Well, obviously free experience could be one way, the free blueprints, but I used to get the OI back when you could research it from the OI experimental. So now that vehicle got well, not really removed, but now it's a different collector tab. So what I was left with an OI that was already researched, so it was pretty decent for me. The vehicle is kind of standard, doesn't have the most armor. It's medium tank, like pretty much almost all medium tank at tier 5. They're just pretty much the same, even though the Stogan has kind of decent DPM. The top turret with the top gun have decent penetration, yet alright, the alpha damage like 125 is not something out of this world, yet 1500 DPM might be a bit low. About the vehicle's mobility, what can I say? 15.3 power to ratio is decent, with 38 38 kilometers top speed. That was I was about to say. But you can actually go up to maybe 17 power to weight ratio with the top engine, so that's only my setup with the first engine. So the vehicle at tier 5 is quite mobile and it can do the job properly. To get to the tier 6, well, at the tier 6 you actually get a better gun with actually 5 more alpha damage, but you get better penetration and more DPM. You get almost 450 DPM, which is roughly 30%, I think, better DPM, which is a big increase, a big step up over the tier 5. But there is nothing really a difference over here. You just have a tank that is the same as the tier 5 in terms of armor. Actually, you do have 75 millimeters of armor around, actually not around, only on the front, and 35 on the side. Yet you're a big target, and artilleries, especially bishops and FV, are gonna love you. Though you have 10 degrees of gun depression, 2100 DPM, which is just insane. Yet you have some armor to, be a support vehicle. What I don't really like about this vehicle is the power to ratio. It's only 12.4, which is really slow for a medium tank. But this time you can go actually 45 instead of the 38 at the previous tier. One thing I forget to mention about this tier 5, you have actually 15 degrees of gun depression with possibly only on the last gun. Maybe, I'm not really sure as I have never played it, but as I mentioned, you have at least 10 degrees of gun depression. Though, jumping off at the tier 7, the Chiri. Well, this is a tank that you actually might worth keeping. Why is that? Well, because you grow up in size, you have a bigger, chunkier vehicle, yet you have the same armor. They are the same armors you do at the tier, what is it, a tier 6? You have less DPM than the tier 6, but what you get is actually an autoloader, and it's an autoloader that can use, obviously, a rammer, which is kind of unusual for an autoloader, but you know what, I'll actually take that. Yeah, about the autoloader, which is the main focus of this vehicle, 390 alpha damage within 2 shots, within 2 seconds after the first shot. You have 3 in the magazine, 1 second interclip reload. If you have, like as I did a video about the Chiri, if you have the skill that gives you more, what's called more module damage, you can set up vehicles on fire like crazy, because first shot is gonna yellow the fuel tanks, Next shell is gonna set the vehicle on fire, is gonna use the fire extinguisher, and after that the vehicle will be set on fire again, therefore without any kind of fire extinguisher. Well, that is the best case scenario, but I got a small montage in this channel. It was like a minute and a half or something like that. But yeah, the vehicle has a very interesting gun. I mean, the gun is pretty much the main focus at the tier 7, and what can I say? You have also 10 degrees of gun depression, which is just workable. What you don't have is actually the most amount of penetration at 186 at the tier 7 on premium and 155 at the standard shell, which is pretty much the same as you do on the tier 6, yet you meet tier 9. So yeah, that's gonna be a bit of an issue. Though what is not a bit of an issue, it's actually it's an issue. Your tank is a bit sluggish, so you might actually want to use rammer, probably vertical stabilizer. Actually, this vehicle cannot use a vertical stabilizer, IRM, and a turbocharger. And if not, maybe you wanna put coated optics. Who knows? Because the vehicle's view range is 370, so it's a bit lacking the view range yet. Next, at the tier 8, you actually don't lack the view range anymore because you have 390 meters view range on your tier 9, actually on tier 8. What also you don't lack, it's the DPM, because this time you actually get 2311, um, which is just really good. On top of that, by the looks of it, you don't even need to update the stock tracks on this, so you can actually skip some experience. This time you actually get a much better mobile vehicle at 1009, actually 19 horsepower per ton. Is that with the top engine? By the looks of it, yeah, that's the top engine, with a 45 kilometer an hour top speed, which means you are kind of mobile compared to the tanks before you. You also have 10 degrees gun depression on your gun, 240 alpha damage, which is really low, yet with a rammer and everything you can boost that up to, well, not the damage per shot, but the DPM you can boost it up to 2600, and with this we could probably load within 5 seconds, so you can perma-track enemies. On top of that, you have 275 hit pan, which is decent enough if you ask me. And on top of that, I forgot to mention that this vehicle gets kind of an ugly gun as stock, but once you get that 17k experience for the top turret, then you actually might get 41,000 for the top gun, which is gonna take you a bit of experience. But is it really worth to get a 19k gun? Well, probably, because you don't wanna grind it with stock, but because I use X3, I use boosters and holiday op, I actually managed to skip it. I actually use free experience as well. One thing I forgot to mention, that this vehicle is almost identical to the STA2, but the STA2 just has a less DPM. It has less hit points by 30. You actually get pretty much the same cupola, actually the same turret that might deflect the shell, but can do that never, because you have kind of a strong-ish gun mantle, but don't really rely on it. Those vehicles are glass cannon until the tier 9 and tier 10. But yeah, the STA, it's actually STA2, the premium variant. It's more mobile, as I mentioned, lower DPM. You have pretty much the same gun, less hit points, more DPM, and actually 10 more view range. So if you're on a spot and if you're being mobile, probably the premium vehicle, it's the best pick. But after you skip the STA1, you're gonna go from a 240 gun to a big boy 360 gun, which by the looks of it, it's a tier 10 gun. You have the 258 standard penetration, 330 hit, and decent enough. Actually, and when I say decent enough, it's actually 3000 DPM whenever you use a rammer, and with the crew you can get it up. So this vehicle is a really dangerous vehicle in terms of the DPM. You also don't have the most armor at 55 on the front, so you're not gonna bounce anything. 85 on the turret. You have a big cupola that you always show before your gun. So those vehicles are a bit tricky to play. Yet this vehicle doesn't really lack obviously the one and only the mobility that is really important for a tank with no armor. 22 almost actually. Is it the top engine? Yeah, I do have the top engine. So 21 and a half with 45 kilometer an hour top speed. Yeah, this vehicle is not really slow. On top of that, you have 400 meters base view range. So, you know, you might not want to use a coded optics. You want to use a vertical stabilizer, rammer, and probably hardening or turbo. Is really depending on your playstyle, but obviously you want to use the gun rammer and the vertical stabilizer, so you want to connect your shell. With a vertical stabilizer, who knows, maybe you want to drop that as well for something better that suits your playstyle, but that will be my desired setup. And oh man, I really miss the Type 61. The Type 61 is the same as the Tier 7. You can opt out for keeping it. But if you really want to, get your STB-1, yeah, this vehicle is a vehicle that you should keep as well. Why is that? Because it's unlike all of the vehicle in this line, you actually get a hydrogen suspension, and I know I cannot pronounce that word. I'm really sorry. And on top of that, you have actually a turret that can deflect shells. Yet you have a small cupola over here, but mostly of the times people are not gonna aim for that. This thing, it's well, the armor. You obviously have a good turret, but once you aim for here and here, like the flattest part, that's roughly 300. With premium rounds, you can go easily through it. Obviously, the cupola might be a bit tricky to hit. The upper plate, it's well, this part over here is really angled whenever this tank is using its full 14 degrees of gun depression. So it might be tricky to penetrate this because obviously it's gonna ricochet off. Whenever this tank is playing cooldown, you can always shoot the track. Actually, you can either shoot the track up into this flap, because this flap over here is only 35 millimeters, so you can always penetrate it with any kind of gun. I mean, not really any kind, because this vehicle is using a 105, and it cannot penetrate itself with AP if it's having a really slope angle, but it can be overmatched by any 106 millimeter at any circumstances. On top of that, the vehicle is really like its armor towards the rear, so artillery pieces, if they're gonna splash at your rear, they're still gonna do significant amount of damage. In terms of the gun performance, it's obviously the same as the tier 9, but much better stat increase. You actually have 0.36 accuracy as base, which is not the best yet not the worst, because 3600 DPM needs actually 3000. How much is it base? 3200 base DPM, or probably it's even 3000. So yeah, whenever you fully load this vehicle, your reload goes down to 5.7, maybe 5.6. So once again you can perma-track enemies, and you can just take away their hit points like you're in a tortoise. The vehicle also has 2000 hit points, so you might drop your actually I might wanna drop my coded optics for improved hardening, to actually last longer into the battles. Obviously, you want to use rammer to increase your TPM. Actually, you might not want to use rammer. Who knows? Maybe you want to make this tank sneakier because it doesn't have the best camo, is it? With the camo, you can actually be more sneaky, and on top of that, the V range is 400 and 400 meters base V range, which is just marvelous. In terms of my setup with this vehicle of field modifications, well, I pick module durability just to have a smaller penalty whenever this tank gets AMRAC and the gun is breaking, because whenever you play cooldown, people are gonna aim for your gun. Actually, might dodge the shell with your gun, and it's gonna go broken. So whenever you have a broken gun, you're not gonna be as accurate. So with this model, you pretty much deny that. And this vehicle actually gets AMRAC quite often, or at least from my experience. So you reduce the penalty of that by 50%, which is always decent. I pick improve sight just to have better accuracy by tiny touch, the cost of gun dispersion. I pick anti-reflected highlight coating because this vehicle actually goes really fast backwards, like it goes 25 by default. If you wanna put a turbocharger in it, it can go by 27, I think. So by using this anti-reflective headlight, you pretty much are trading not even 10% of your reverse speed for 3% concealment, which in tier 10 it might be huge. Next, I don't really recommend you guys use sensitive optics because actually, because you obviously have the most view range, you have 400 meters base, so you might actually want to go for heavy gauge nozzle because speed is really important. Securing that position, it is a very important with this vehicle. So 2 kilometer an hour going instead of 48 by going 52 is gonna be much. It's gonna change your game output. Let's say about the mines. If you go 52 in the mines, then you might get one or two shotted from the enemies. But if you go 48, you might end up dead. So guys, please use the heavy gauge nozzle. I have a more of a scouting build because I don't use premium consumables on my equipment, so I really needed that spotting. And on top of that, I'm using lightweight support roller just to have a bit more speed whenever I'm repairing my tracks. But yeah, this is pretty much the STB line. You have 14 degrees of wind depression. The vehicle itself, it's pretty much like an 8 year at tier X. Once you manage to master it, oh boy, this vehicle will really reward you. And in terms of the crew, yeah, that's pretty much the crew what I'm using. BS and concealment with situation awareness, and after that I'm gonna train this. I'm gonna go for recon just to have more view range, so I can train my view range for something else. So yeah, this was the video, guys. Thank you very much everyone for watching, and I will see you legends around.